at the tree data structure. Hope you all remember the characteristic of a tree, so that we can easily relate the graph. We just have to know the difference between the tree and the graph. So these are some of the characteristics of a graph. A graph is a collection of nodes called the vertices. Whereas in the case of tree, we used to call them as branches and nodes. So a tree is a collection of nodes and branches. Similarly, a graph is a collection of nodes and vertices and edges. Vertices are nothing but the nodes of a tree. Edges are nothing but the branches. That interconnection or the lines. They are called as edges in the case of graph. And so the lines are the ones that interconnect the pairs of vertices. So between any two vertices, there will be a edge connecting them. In other words, a graph consists of two sets, a set of vertices and a set of lines. They are just beating around the bush, just saying the same thing. But basically, the point is that a graph is made of a number of vertices, which are the nodes which that contain values, and the interconnections, which are edges. And a difference between a tree and a graph, the first difference between a tree and graph is that a tree is by default undirected. There is no directed tree, because if a tree is directed, then we can't visit all the branches. There is no traversal possible if the tree is conceived of a undirected. Because let us assume that you have reached the a leaf node during the traversal, either in order, pre-order or post-order, you have reached the left subtree. Now, in order to proceed, you have to go back. So you must go back to the parent of the leaf, and then you have to then descend to the right side. So if the tree is considered to be a directed one, then only if there is an arrow pointing towards the parent back from the leaf to the parent, it is possible to go back. Otherwise, it is not possible. So a tree is always undirected, but a graph can either be directed or undirected. We have both options available. So depending upon the implementation, a graph can be either made to be directed, or it can be treated as undirected. We will look at examples for each type of graph. And it's a terminology. A directed graph is shortly known as a digraph. The lines in a directed graph are all called arcs. So again, a terminology. Lines or edges are used to call the connection between two vertices. But when the lines are pointing to one particular side using the arrow, then they are called arcs. An undirected graph is a graph in which there is no direction on any of the lines, which are known as edges. By default, the undirected graph is bidirectional. So you can move in either side when there is no specific direction provided. Its default is bidirectional. Now another terminology is a path. A path is sequence of vertices in which each vertex is adjacent to the next one. See, for example, in a graph, I want to traverse from A to Z. These are two different vertices. Uh, they are part of the same graph. So if I have to go from A to Z, then I should find a path, and that path may involve other vertices. For example, I have to go to A to C, and then C to E, and then C to X, and then Z. So now this is a path. So one from a source to a destination, the path, it is called as a path. The sequence of vertices being followed to reach from one source to a destination is called as a path. This is an example, like ABCE is one path and ABEF is another path. Okay, now I'm presenting the graph example, and this graph is in undirected graph because you don't see any direction. So in a directed graph, you will see arrow marks. This is directed graph, but here this is a undirected graph. So what is an edge here? Uh, each of the characters represented are called as vertices. So B, E, F, C, D, E, they are all called vertices, and edges are nothing but the connections. So there is a edge between A to B, B to C, B to E, C to D, D to E, D to F, and E to F. So these are called the edges. And because this is undirected, when you say that there is a path from, or there is a edge from A to B, it's implicit that there is also an edge from B to A. It's default because it's undirected. So we don't need to check whether there is a reverse direction edge pass available. By default, it's bidirectional. But that is not the case with a directed graph. So here we have an edge from A to B, but we can't assume that there is a edge from B to A also. So such a edge is not available in the given graph because the arrow is pointing only from A to B, not from B to A. That is the difference between undirected and directed. So you have to be very careful while dealing with the directed graph, especially when traversal is carried out. You can't simply traverse in any direction. Unlike the direct undirected graph, you could only move in the direction as for the arrow, the directions. Okay, so this is the difference between directed and undirected graph. Next, another terminology, adjacent. So we can say that two vertices are adjacent if there is a edge connecting them. For example, here A and B are adjacent, B and C are adjacent, B and E are adjacent. But A and E are not adjacent, though there is a path. There is a path from A to E, but they are not adjacent because there is no direct edge between them. So that is what the meaning of adjacent. Two vertices in a graph are said to be adjacent if there is a path of length 1 connecting them. That is the case of adjacency. Next terminology, cycle. A cycle is a path consisting of at least 3 vertices that starts and ends with the same vertex. For example, if you take E, I can move from E to F, F to D, and come back to E, which means this is a cycle. But on the other hand, from A, I can go to B, I can go to E, F, D, E, but I can't once again come back to A. So this is not a cycle. Only if you are able to start from a vertex and after traversing minimum of 3 vertices, if you are able to come back to the same vertex, then it's called as a cycle. Another similar term is called as a loop. A loop is a special case of a cycle where it starts and ends with the same vertex without involving any other vertex, like here. So here, this path is this vertex is I mean this edge is a unique edge because it is interconnecting A with itself. So this is called as a loop. I'm just checking whether I still get connected. Okay, there is a, this is called as a loop. Two vertices are said to be connected if there is a path between them. So if I am able to I mean start from a source vertex and then somehow reach the destination vertex, then they are said to be connected. It need not be an adjacency. Remember, adjacency is different from path. Adjacency is you should have a single edge connecting two vertices. But path means it may be single or it may be involving multiple edges. So you just have to be able to reach the destination from the given source. And when there is a path between two vertices, they are said to be connected. And again, you have to keep in mind that connected has to be decided based on the direction. So for example, here A and B are having a connection, having a path, but they are not fully connected because you can't go from B to A. There is only path from A to B, but not from B to A. So such there is going to be a difference between strongly connected and weakly connected. A directed graph is strongly connected if there is a path from each vertex to every other vertex in the digraph. Whereas a directed graph is weakly connected if at least two vertices are not connected. I'm going to simplify this by showing this example. So I'm saying this is a weakly connected graph. That is because obviously you can't reach C. So C don't have a path from no vertex you can reach C. Similarly, you can't also reach A because of the direction. So this is weakly connected. Even if minimum of two vertices are not don't have a path to reach them, then we classify the graph as a weakly connected graph. Whereas strongly connected graph is like this. So now you can see that you can move from any vertex to any other vertex. Even you can reach A and you can also reach C. This is called as a strongly connected graph. There is another type of graph called disjoint graph. Disjoint graph has got at least one vertex which cannot be reached at all. Here this is not disjoint because I mean this particular graph is weakly connected but not disjoint because there is an edge between every vertex. But here there is no edge between G and any other vertex in the graph. So this is totally disconnected, and such a graph is called disjoint graph. The next term is the degree of a vertex is the number of lines incident to it. For example, I mean it's like equivalent to in degree and out degree. So out degree of a vertex is the number of arcs leaving the vertex. So here if you take B, the out degree is 1 because there is one edge going out of B. Other two are in degrees. So B's in degree is 2, whereas out degree is 1. This is very much equivalent to the tree. But again, if this graph is a undirected graph, then there is no relevance for in degree and out degree. Only when the graph is a directed graph or digraph, we have to talk about out degree and in degree. If the graph is simply undirected, then only degree is applicable. All the edges falling on a particular vertex are counted as the degree of a vertex. Whereas we can't specify the in degree and out degree if it is a undirected graph. Uh, and what is the relationship between tree and a graph? So he can, I think you can by now you would have got a clear understanding of how tree is different from a graph. See, a tree, the basic characteristic of a tree is that no node can have more than one what. Okay, let me ask this question. For a tree, no node can have more than one dash.
Parents, sir.
Predecessor, sir.
No, no, say it again.
Predecessor,
Parents,
sir.
Okay, okay, parent.
parents.
Yeah, okay. So there is no possibility for any node to have more than one parent, but if you relax that rule, then it becomes a graph. So a graph is basically a tree which don't have the follow the rule that a node can have at most one parent, or in other words, at most one in degree. So in degree is only one possible in tree, but that is not restricted in the graph. So can I say that every tree is a graph? Yes, because see a graph don't have any such condition on in degree and out degree. As a result, every tree is by default can be treated as a graph. But every graph cannot be a tree because there is only restriction on the tree, not on the graph. So obvious that when you remove the restriction on a tree, it becomes a graph. That means that every tree can be easily considered as a graph, but only if the graph don't have any a multiple parent or more than one degree, it can be treated as a tree, but otherwise it cannot be treated as a tree. That's the last point mentioned here. A tree is a graph in which each vertex has only one predecessor. However, a graph is not a tree. Now the representation. So how do you represent a graph? This is called as a adjacency matrix. It's basically a two-dimensional array. You can see easily that it shows 0 whenever there is a when they are not adjacent. For example, A and A is not are not adjacent, so it's 0. Whereas A and B are adjacent, so you are representing it with 1. Similarly, A to C there is a path. So A to C there is a path, so you have to put 1 here. Similarly, the next row is meant for the adjacency of B. So from B to A, since there is a path, you put it's not about path. I am making a mistake. Adjacency. So whether there is a path or not, that is not to be considered for adjacency matrix. It is about the adjacency. I mean, as the name itself says, if the two vertices are adjacent, you have to mark them as 1, else you have to mark it as 0. This is how the entire matrix is filled. See, once you have got this matrix, you can do any traversal with the help of this. You don't need this diagram. This diagram is only for visual purpose. But for computer, we will only present the adjacency matrix, and through which it can understand all the connections, which nodes are which vertices are connected, and what is the path available from A to D. All that can be detected with the help of the adjacency matrix. And this is array representation. If you are implementing the graph program using array, then you will be going for this adjacency matrix. But if you implement using linked list, then you will just go for the linked list. I will show that example later. So there are two different ways of representing a graph. One using a singly linked list, another by using a adjacency matrix. These are simple examples how to insert a vertex. See, unlike a tree, inserting into a graph is very simple because there is no restriction. I can insert anywhere. I can insert any node anywhere or any vertex anywhere in the graph. So it is just a matter of our choice where we want to insert. Okay, they have this is just given as a way to insert. Similarly, deletion also is quite simple. But only thing is that they say that you cannot delete a no vertex edge which is not disjoint. So for example, let's say I want to delete C, but you can't immediately delete C since it is not disjoint. It is connected with the A and D. So the procedure is you first have to delete the edges connecting C. That is, you have to make the the degree of C to be 0 first. You have to make the degree of C to be 0, so that it becomes disjoint. That requires deletion of the edge between A to C and C to D. Only after deleting these two edges and making this to be a disjoint vertex, you can now delete C. It's a simple condition imposed on the delete operation. So that is what is being done. You check whether its in degree or out degree is greater than 0. If so, return -1. That means you first have to delete the edge using the algorithm for edge deletion. After that, you can perform the deletion of the vertex. This is the algorithm for the arc deletion, that is edge deletion. So it is it simply makes the entry in the adjacent list to be 0. That's all needed. So you just go to that particular intersection edge and make it 0 in the adjacency list. Okay, now I'm getting to the major topic of this session, which is the traversal of a graph. This is a very very important topic. You have to expect the questions on this topic. Either you may be given a graph and asked to perform the result of the, I mean, provide the result of the traversal. So we are going to discuss two traversal techniques, DFS and BFS, and both will produce different results. For a same graph, the result of the DFS will be different from BFS, and during exam, you have to precisely provide the traversal result to get the marks. So I'll show a demo of the traversal techniques. With the help of it, you can clearly understand. And you know the meaning of traversal. I don't need to repeat. Traversal is about starting from one particular node or vertex and visiting every other vertex. So just traversing across the graph and visiting all the vertices is what the objective of traversal. Okay, now the first traversal technique is called DFS or depth first traversal. So instead of theoretically explaining this, let me take you to the demo. So I'm taking this example. So this is a graph which has got seven vertices, and they are connected in a certain way, and it is undirected. So it is much simpler to traverse since it is undirected. And this is the linked list that is created for this particular graph. I already told you that I can either use the adjacency list or a linked list to represent a graph. This is the second way. So what you see here is that for each vertex there is a pointer, and that pointer is having the chain of all other vertices. So A, from this linked list, you can move from A to B, B to C, and then C to D. Similarly, B, B to A to E to F, and G. So okay, in other words, B, C, D are adjacent to A, E, F, G are adjacent to B, A, D are adjacent to C. So you know what are the nodes, vertices that are adjacent to each one of the vertex. Now we are ready for the, we have constructed this particular list. So we are now ready for the traversal. So let us observe how this works. And before that, it involves a usage of a stack. This remember very carefully, because DFS will use a stack, whereas BFS will use a queue. Next algorithm will simply replace the stack by a queue, and the entire result will be totally different. So you have to remember carefully to use stack under the DFS traversal. So step one, okay. And one more thing is, the one more difference between a tree and a graph is that in a tree there is a clear root or starting node. So we don't get confused where to start, because there is a root. But in a graph there is no root. No node is treated as the first node in a graph. All the vertices are simply part of the graph. There is nothing called as a root. So where you commence the traversal is it's not fixed. I can traverse starting from B, I can traverse starting from D. So it is it is simply a option left to the programmer. But conventionally we will begin with the lowest value. So whether it's, if it is numbers, then we will start from the node that contains 1. Whereas since these are alphabets, I'm going to choose A as the first vertex. So I'm going to start from A. Now the first step is that push A into the stack. Okay, push A into the stack and pop A immediately out of stack. Mark it as, okay, this array is meant for knowing which vertices are already visited and which vertices are yet to be visited. So since we have just visited A, or just visiting A, we have marked A as visited and print it on the screen. So I'm printing A so that we know which vertices are completed from the user point of view. Next step is that you identify the vertices that are adjacent to A and push all of them into the stack. Okay, let me repeat. Once you have finished the traversal of a particular vertex, the next step is that you have to push all the adjacent vertices of that vertex into the stack. What will happen? The first adjacent node of A is B, next C, next D, nothing else. So we have completed that step. This must be implemented using a loop, obviously. So there should be a loop which should insert all the edges or all the vertices that are adjacent to A into the stack. Once this step is completed, we have to repeat the previous step. Take the top element from the stack, D, mark it as visited and print it. Now what is the next step? I think it is now it should have become obvious now. Now identify all the vertices that are adjacent to D. And one more point is that only if those vertices are already not entered into the stack, or already not present in the stack, or not visited. Okay, so D is adjacent to 3 vertices A, C and G. Out of the 3, A is already visited, C is already in the stack. So what is left is only G. So G is inserted into the stack. And now you have to repeat the second step. Remove the top vertex from stack, mark it as visited, print it, and choose the adjacent vertices of G and put them into the stack. In this case, we are having B and F. B is already in the stack, so F is the new vertex. It's pushed into the stack. And now we do the same thing. Remove F, mark it as visited, and choose the adjacent vertices which are new. I think it does not have any new vertex. Both B and G are already included, so nothing need to be done now. Now you remove the top C, mark it as visited, and from C you don't have any new vertex, so you simply ignore it. Now remove B, mark it as visited and print it, and since the stack has become empty now, so this is no, okay, one more okay, now B, we are visiting B, right? So from B we have got a new vertex which has not yet been visited, which is E. So E is inserted into the stack. Now we go to the first step. Remove E, mark it as visited, print it. Now we have completed the traversal of this particular graph and using DFS. See, what you can observe from this order is that it keeps going deeper into the graph. So you started from A. From A you visited D. From D you visited G. So it is getting deeper. It's not trying to complete one level and at level by level. It's just going on into a deeper level. From one parent it goes to a child. From that child it goes to the child of that child, and so on. This is the nature of DFS, and it makes use of stack for its purpose. I have okay. This is the algorithm for DFS. The first step is it loops through all vertices and set process it to be 0, which is nothing but this array is filled with zeros initially. So this is the step here. Mark process it to be 0, and after that it commences the traversal. So loop through the vertex list, push stack the current vertex. So when you started from A, it gets pushed into the stack, and that is what is done here. So push the current vertex into the stack, and you now have to identify its adjacent vertices. Okay, it's now doing the second step. Pop stack the top element. Okay, you have to pop the top element from the stack and process it, which means the processed is now it's of that is changed into 1. and set vertex to be processed. Now you have to identify all the arcs or the adjacent vertices of that particular node or vertex and push all of them into the stack. So this happens through a loop. When this loop ends, you would have inserted all its adjacent vertices into the stack, and now you have to go back. So you go back to the previous step. You take the top element from the stack, and then make it as mark it as processed, and then try to identify its adjacent vertices and push all of them into the stack. So this is what the algorithm for the DFS. Now one more example I have got here. So this is exactly the same procedure. Let me just explain few steps of this algorithm. I mean implementation. So here also I started from A. So A is pushed into the stack, and then it is immediately popped and get printed. And I identified X as the adjacent of A pushed into the stack. Then popped that X also printed, and its adjacent vertices are inserted into the stack G and H. Now H is popped out of the stack. It's marked as it's printed as visited, and then P, which is adjacent to H, is and I mean E and P. These two are inserted into the stack, and it continues. So this process simply continues until the stack becomes empty and all the vertices are visited. Now let us look at the different algorithm, which is traversal algorithm, which is breadth first traversal. See, the only difference you have to remember is that I have just replaced the stack with a queue. Nothing else changes. The same procedure, but the result will be different. That is the power of data structure. So when you change the data structure from stack to queue, it becomes a totally different algorithm. So let us explore the BFS algorithm for the same example. So there is no change in the adjacency singly linked list. So starting from A, I push the vertex into the queue. It's no longer a stack, it is enqueued now. It is enqueued or inserted into the queue and immediately popped as we did in the DFS. So it is marked as visited and gets printed. The second step is also same. That is, you have to identify all the adjacent vertices of A and insert them into the queue B, C, T. But where it is going to be different is that now you are not going to choose the top from the stack. You are going to choose the first element from the queue, and the result is going to be differing because of this simple reason. So I'm going to choose it's a FIFO. So because a queue is a FIFO, I have to now choose B as the next vertex. So B is chosen, it's marked as visited, and it is printed. Now adjacent of B have to be inserted, E, F and G, F, G. Now you have to repeat. Uh, choose the first from the queue, mark it as printed, print it, and insert the adjacent of C, which has not yet been considered. So D is already included. A is also already traversed. So nothing need to be done. So you now remove the next element, which is D, mark it as visited, print it, then remove E from the queue. Now see, from E also we don't have any other new vertex, so we simply pop the no DQ. Okay, here it's the operation is DQ. So we DQ the next vertex, which is F, printed. So finally G. So this is BFS traversal. If you look at the result, what happened is that A followed by all the adjacent vertices of A are visited. So you can see in the result that unlike the DFS, which keeps jumping from one level to another level, A the BFS is completing one level at a time before moving on to the next level. So from A, it visited all the adjacent vertices of A, and then it visited all the adjacent vertices of B, followed by adjacent vertices of C, and so on. So this is what we refer as the breadth first traversal or BFS. So if you are given a similar graph, you should be able to produce the result of the DFS and the BFS for that particular graph. The major clue here is that the usage of the stack and the queue. So for the DFS, you have to use a stack, whereas for the BFS, you have to use the queue. So you will automatically get the result. And also the algorithm is also exactly same. I don't need to explain the algorithm again. The only difference is it employs a queue here. So in the previous algorithm, we saw the usage of stack, but this algorithm has just replaced the stack by a queue. That's all needed for you to write the algorithm for DFS. Lastly, I would like to just introduce as a modified graph called the weighted graph. The only difference here is that now each edge is given a weight, a value. So previously we just saw a graph with the interconnections, but now we are going to give unique value to each edge. Actually, this is what the basis of your Google map. So I think you are all familiar with the usage of Google map, right? So Google map is nothing but a graph. It's a large graph where places are interconnected and the distances between the places are also recorded. So in fact, it is a weighted graph. This is the next graph we are going to explore, and for that we will discuss a major algorithm called minimum spanning tree. So the next class I will be discussing on this particular algorithm. But for today's session, I just want you to get familiar with these concepts.